What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here, the review of Elio, the latest animated Pixar film. This one from a trio of directors, co-directors, Domi Shi, who directed Turning Red, Adrian Molina, who co-directed Coco, and Madeline Sherifin, who is a Pixar veteran as well. And yeah, Elio has been kind of had a long journey to the screen, delayed over a year out of 2024, but is still notable for being an original Pixar film. And as we know, Pixar and Disney at large has been very sequel dependent. I think Pixar creatively has come under a bit of fire for just not seemingly having the inspiration and the new things to say to the same degree that they used to. I mean, if you think about that, the last original Pixar movie to make a big impact, I mean, you have the pandemic films that were all sidelined and released on Disney Plus and just didn't seem to make the impact that they should have, right? Films like Soul and Luca and Turning Red. And I think Turning Red in a different world probably could have been a much bigger movie. But as a result, we kind of seem to have crept downward with Pixar, right? Remember, of course, a few years ago, Elemental opening small and then actually legging out to pretty solid box office due to a very big international performance, right? Elemental seemed to have been bearing the brunt of a lot of that Pixar I don't want to say disinterest, but perhaps audience, programming, in the sense that Disney Plus is the eventual home of all these kids animated movies. Less people are going out to see them in the moment. And of course, you say all that, but then we look at what happened with Inside Out 2 last year, the biggest movie of 2024, the highest grossing animated movie of all time. And you understand why they're sequel pillaged, because when they have hits, they often get bigger and bigger, right? Moana 2, another example. So all that's to say, remains to be seen how well new original stuff can work from Disney these days, right? Of course, look how big Lilo and Stitch has done lately, right? As a remake. Elio, though, unfortunately, seems to be bearing the brunt of a lot of the Pixar criticism of late. It's a fine, solid movie. It doesn't have as much under the hood to interest the adults the way great Pixar movies often do. This is really more of a kid's film through and through. A kid who wants to be abducted by aliens and then ends up getting abducted by aliens is a funny enough premise, and I think the movie overall works pretty well. The movie has some good humor in its middle act, and I think it finds itself in its storytelling after a pretty slow start, but it's nothing that you haven't seen before from Pixar. That, unfortunately, I think will be the problem with it for many. I think the premise, too, of you have Elio, right? This kid who struggles to make friends. He's a bit quirky and unique in terms of just how he acts, what he's interested in. Of course, he lives with his aunt. His parents are gone. And, his self-esteem, but also what he thinks about himself is, of course, unsurprisingly, still a work in progress as an 11-year-old, and him getting, taken by aliens who mistake him for the ambassador of Earth after it's been something he was aspiring to be and achieve. It's all pretty cool. And then when you get to, the aliens up in space, the Communiverse, as it's called, big Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantum Mania energy in terms of the visuals. Unfortunately, the movie really rushes us forward with the villain plot, and I would have loved just more time with those aliens and with their magic, computer and all that shit. It just felt so rushed, and it just felt like a missed opportunity. There was more stuff there. I think the villain, Lord Grigon, pretty solid ultimately, because he's multi-layered and there's more depth to him, but he'll certainly remind you of Emperor Zurg from Toy Story. I think that's pretty clear. I think his son, Glordon, though, is by far the most effective part of the movie in terms of the supporting cast. Glordon is just really funny, and his energy, the chemistry you could call it with Elio, I think works pretty well. I enjoyed an extended scene about navigating a debris field, right? Kind of reminiscent of Star Wars and having to plot the route to hyperspace versus just jumping right away, as Han Solo's speech in A New Hope reminds us. So that was cool. There's some fun clone comedy when Elio gets a clone to, keep up appearances while he's actually the real Elio's up in space. I think that was pretty good. And Zoe Saldana plays the aunt, Olga, and she, I think it's a pretty spirited, vocal performance for what she's given. And yeah, like I think the movie's all right. I think I probably prefer Luca more than this, just because I thought that was a bit more visually interesting and had just a bit more to it. But yeah, I think like this one, it's all right. And if we think about the future of Pixar at this point, we do have another original film, Hoppers, coming out in March. But then we will be getting Toy Story 5 in June, another sequel. And then 2027, there's an original film, Gato, on the calendar. And then 2028, we have Incredibles 3 dated. And 2029, we have Coco 2. So that's 3 mega sequels, 2 originals. And, in theory, it's keeping a more of an even split. We just want to see success, I think, for the originals, right? And we just have, apart from Elemental belatedly getting there, it's been a bit of a longer time, really since Coco, when you could say there was a really successful original Pixar film. So hopefully we can get back there, because Pixar for a long time was a really exciting creative place that we were really invested in. And maybe Illumination has stolen some of that lunch recently as they've come to be a massive force under Universal. The Disney front, of course, at the end of the year, they have Zootopia 2 coming out, which I expect to be massive as well. So that's just kind of where we are. But if you think between the success of Inside Out 2, the success of the Lilo and Stitch remake, the upcoming success of Zootopia 2 and Toy Story 5, it's hard not to expect more of the IP-leaning stuff from Disney. That's just how they're moving, and also what the data is telling them to make. So I really hope that maybe Hoppers can be more successful than Elio has been. Maybe coming out in March will be helpful. I think Elio coming out so close to the release of Lilo and Stitch wasn't helpful to its success. But yeah, let me know what you think of Elio. What do you think about Pixar in general these days? Let me know. And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.